And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon, and today I am talking with Mark Zucker. And well, first of all, Mark, thank you for taking some time and squeezing me into your calendar and being my guest today.
I'm thrilled to be here, Michael.
It's going to be a fun conversation. Mark and his team. Mark's built a company over the last few years with he and his wife and a team where they help you build a team the easy way. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're wearing way too many hats and you're trying to scale your business, but you are the bottleneck, Mark's going to help us figure out how to solve that in one great way. So we're going to dive into this, Mark, but I want to understand the story behind the business you built and how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
So we've got an outsourcing business which provides full-time staffing from the Philippines. It's an interesting story. We have another business based in Chicago that manufactures wedding albums for professional photographers. It's a B2B business. And in the first 14 of the 29 years, it was phenomenal. We grew like crazy. And then all of a sudden, the industry was disrupted by technology. So suddenly our 25% year over year growth days were over. And now suddenly we were organically declining. And I remember having a manager's meeting with my COO. This was in 2010. Okay. And I said, I feel like we've got another year and a half of runway and then we're in big trouble. I said, the industry's consolidating, margins are going to be squeezed, revenue is going to be dropping every year. We're now shifting into cost-cutting survival mode. And she said to me, well, I have an idea. I'm Filipino, right? And I said, okay, what does that mean? She says, well, in my country, we can hire a lot of our back office team and spend a lot less than we would here in Chicago, and it would turn into enormous savings. So at the time we had over 100 people in the company, 25-ish in the office, and over a 4-year period, we moved 80% of our staff overseas. And these are IT developers, software developers, accounting, marketing, customer service, photo editing, you name it. And it really saved our business. So here we are in 2024, 13, 14 years after outsourcing. Every year, one or two of our competitors close because there's just not enough demand. We've been last man standing because we've got a lower based office structure cost. So the short story is that's what led us into starting the outsourcing business 7 years ago. We saw firsthand how it really saved us. We were working with other companies in the Philippines. And then on my wife, her name is Cherry, on one of her visits to the Philippines, she would take the team out to lunch. And they said to her, Miss Cherry, if you ever wanted to start your own company, we would love to work with you. So that was really the beginning. So that was 2017.
Wow. What a great story. An entrepreneur who has saw the future, which kudos to you for looking down and seeing the future, but you didn't panic. You did what was needed, but you also did something that a lot of entrepreneurs aren't willing to do, and that's listen to counsel and go, maybe there's another way, right? And I love the last man standing thing.
More importantly, Michael, I listened to my wife and business partner. It was her idea her suggestion to do this. Being an American-born entrepreneur, I never would have thought of starting a business in the Philippines.
Right.
But it just made sense.
And again, kudos to you there for listening to your wife. My wife is my business partner. She's my bookkeeper. And I've learned over 33, soon to be 34 years of marriage that I need to follow her gut and her wisdom sometimes. Even if she's not in the day-to-day business of our business, she's got some things going on that I just need to go, yes, dear. So let's talk, Mark, about the challenges business owners face. You nailed one, and I just wrote it down here, is lower overhead and increased profits. So many times business owners are driving for that top line revenue, and that's all they think about, but they forget about the money that is invested in teammates and in outsourcing and all kinds of things to get to that bottom line profit. And you've created a way really that a business owner can lower their overhead costs without sacrificing quality and deliverability. Talk about that, because I really think that's something that scares business owners if they're thinking about going overseas, outsourcing things. Unpack that a little bit.
So a common path for entrepreneurs, we come up with the idea, whether it's a product or service. We know everything about it. We've developed it. We're out selling it. We're doing customer support. We're refining it. We're literally doing everything. And then all of a sudden we get traction and there's demand. And we realize as a solopreneur, those days are over and we're really inhibiting our growth. So little by little, they start hiring. And what's really interesting about using an offshore model is I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that are like, boy, I would really love to have an assistant, but I only need like 10, 15 hours a week. And I would say, well, that's wonderful. You can hire somebody locally for 10 to 15 hours a week, or for the same price, you can hire somebody overseas for 40 hours a week. And then they can start doing other things that you haven't even thought about, such as managing your inbox, cleaning out all the junk on a daily basis, all the things that are the silent time killers.
Yeah.
So what I love about what I do is I talk to entrepreneurs all day, whether they're solopreneurs just starting up. I mean, we have some clients that are 1 and 2 person legal firms or CPA firms. And we have other clients that have a head count of 200 to 400 people. And we've got 7 people working in different departments. But initially it's more about taking work off their plate so that they can work more on the business instead of working in the business. And then as they grow, it becomes more about a cost reduction play.
Yeah.
How can we continue to grow without taking on more debt? Let's lower our overhead. And, for example, a client we have that might have 5 full-time people, they're saving the equivalent of $120,000 to $150,000 a year annually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's big.
It's staggering. Not to mention on the whole take back your time aspect. I mean, most people get into business because we're passionate, but we want some free time. We want that entrepreneurial life, that 4-hour work week, right? But we don't want to be in a job where I'm working 16, 18 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. But that's what happens many times because we don't know how to delegate. We think we have to have a staff of 5 people. And the reality is you probably don't. But unless you have a conversation with Mark and his team, you really in your mind are pigeonholing these offshore talent because they are incredibly talented and capable. And I love what you said, taking things off your plate you haven't even thought of yet. And do you know how freeing it is, Mark? Well, you do. Listener, do you know how freeing it is not to have to worry about your inbox? To have your inbox at 0 every night and wake up and have 3 emails because somebody else is managing that for you. Do you know how much freedom that is to give you time to spend working with your clients and things and building your business? Is that kind of what you see people, the transformation that starts to happen when they go, wow, never thought about that?
Yeah, what we see is a common path. Most owners are tied to the accounting. They generally hate doing it. They're processing payroll. They're doing the month-end close. They may or may not have an accounting degree. It really just becomes their least favorite task. So that's something that they're happy to get rid of. And the other thing that's become really popular in the last 5 to 7 years is having a virtual assistant or an executive assistant. And because of the rates of offshore labor, it's become even more common. So I'll give you an example. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I hired my first executive assistant a year and a half ago. She starts a few hours before me. She gets rid of all the junk in my inbox, which I have several inboxes. It probably saves me a half an hour of just absolutely mindless, non-value added work. Any solicitation we get, she has a template that says, please unsubscribe me in a very nice way, looks at all the drafts, emails that I forgot to press send, and sends me a chat in the morning and says, here's 3 things that, did you mean to leave these open?
Right.
That alone, I mean, I look at an executive assistant as somebody who is helping me 8 hours a day. They're not necessarily saving me 8 hours of time, but if they can save me 2 to 3 hours, and at the end of the week, I've got 10 to 15 hours free to either be free and not work or to be free to work on higher value tasks, I can't think of a better ROI.
Absolutely. Well, and not to mention the and I don't even know what the name of it is. My son Caleb has this phrase for it, that when you switch from task to task, there's a ramp up period in your brain, and he has certain days where he's going from one to another, and he's like, these days kill me. But when he can block off chunks of time, he's so much more productive. And when you have somebody taking care of all of that for you to know, Mark, okay, here are the 3 things. After that, focus. And as entrepreneurs, we can get a lot done when we're focused and knowing that somebody's got my backside.
Right.
And that's the beauty of an executive assistant, a virtual assistant, and not just. I mean, I talked to a guy last week, and he was thinking about hiring them, but he's unsure really of the tasks that he would have them do. And I encourage him to just call somebody and talk with them, because they're going. Somebody like Mark is going to be able to walk you through some. Well, here's one thing, but here's 4 other things that might be helpful. How would that work? And it's many times, and you can speak in this. I said many times one virtual assistant or something can do the work of what we would typically think is 2 or 3 people in our brains. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair. And I think a lot of times the block is that as the owner, right? Nobody knows the business as well as us. Nobody's going to write an email as succinctly, hit
Yeah.
all the right points. And in order to grow, you have to understand that every time you hire somebody, there's a chance they're not going to do it 100% as good.
Right.
And that's okay. If they're 95%, it's okay, because that's going to free you up and give you the bandwidth
Yeah.
to grow the business. When you're just focused on tasks,
Yes.
you're not an executive. You're just an office worker.
That's right. Yeah. You two are an employee of the business, right? And that's okay at one level, but if you're going to grow your business, you need to start building your team. You got to have the mindset. So Mark and I are a strategic coach together, and we are learning, mindset, and we're learning leverage and time and people and how do you 10x and all of that. It's because you're finding the right who's, as Dan Sullivan would say, right? And many times the right who is somebody offshore.
Right.
Dan Kennedy talked about years ago, never delegate the marketing or the checkbook. And as an entrepreneur, yeah, the finances don't do a thing for me, right? I've offset that to my son and my wife, but I'm still involved in a monthly finance meeting. They know where everything. So you could have an offshore person running the day to day, and you as the entrepreneur still have your finger on it. You're just not doing the debits and the credits and the writing of the checks. Is that about how it works?
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, for example, I've never done any day-to-day bookkeeping in my life.
Yeah,
I intentionally have never learned QuickBooks or NetSuite or any of those systems because I don't want to get stuck in it. I just want
absolutely.
to, I need to know how my company's performing. I need to know what our bank balance is. I need to know which products and services and clients are profitable. The rest is really just all the busy work that leads to that business intel. We
Right.
don't need it. And I also kind of, a good analogy too is if you look at your personal life, some people are complete DIYs. They do everything themselves. They fix their cars, they change their oil, they shovel the snow in the winter. And then there's others that are the complete opposite. They hire services providers to cut their lawn and
Yeah.
paint their home or whatever, heavy duty work they need to do. And those are the delegators. Now, some people can't don't have the financial luxury to delegate. But as a business owner, a lot of these jobs that we're talking about, whether it's an assistant or a bookkeeper, I mean, these are $10 to $13 an hour jobs. So you
Yeah.
have to look in the mirror and say, is my time worth more than that? Now, if you're truly just starting up,
Right.
maybe you just do everything. But when you get to a point where you have enough business, you need to start hiring people as quick as you can.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing that hit me a number of years ago when I made my really my first hire. I mean, it scared me to death. It's like, oh, can I do that? And what happened? What I learned is, you hire them, it frees up so much time. I can bring in more clients to pay them and to have more profit. And go, well, that works. Should I do it again? And you do it again, and you do it again. Pretty soon, you realize every time I hire somebody, every time I make a great hire, my business grows. I get more time, and everybody's happy.
And you can take a day off or a week off, and the company is still profitable and still makes money, even if you're not quote unquote working. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
really where we all want to get.
And that's where we all should want to get, right? And because now I'm impacting so many lives that it's a joy. And from firsthand experience, we've had a virtual assistant in the Philippines working for us, and she was amazing, and the growth it brought to the company, right? So I want to help people understand that it's not this it's not as weird as we think it is. If you've thought about it but you've never taken that step, something's kind of holding you back. And I'd say your first step probably is to talk with Mark and his team, and we'll tell you how to do that in a minute or two. But have that conversation and just express what's going on inside of you. Because if you go into it with a, oh, I don't think this is going to work mentality, guess what? It's probably not going to work. But if
Right.
you go into it and say, Mark, show me how to make this work for my company, and let Mark help you go through. I love on your website, you got some pricing stuff and how much it is in America and how much you do and how much you save. And it really is, in a sense, squeezing more profit out of your business without sacrificing any quality.
Right. I
Right.
mean, it's really no different than what manufacturing companies did 30, 40, 50 years ago when things were made in Japan, which became made in China and made in Vietnam and other places.
Yeah.
I mean, the average American, most of the durable goods that we use in our homes and cars we drive are not made in this country. And it's because of economies of scales. It's less expensive to have things
Yeah.
made in Mexico or China or other places. And now that trend has really hit office work.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating is pre-pandemic, 99% of the phone calls and inquiries we got were, we're looking to reduce costs, either because we have to or we're growing and we don't want to take on debt. And now it's become, we can't find local talent.
Yes.
I mean, we do a lot of work with CPA firms where they offer bookkeeping as a service, not tax work. They can't hire fresh grads like they used to for whatever reason. There's a paucity of talent.
Yeah.
They come to us where in the Philippines is overflowing with talent.
Yes.
So I think also what the pandemic did is it made remote work acceptable.
Yeah.
There are companies in Arkansas that have employees in Florida that they'll never meet, or in
Right.
Washington State. So what's the difference if they're in another country or they're in another state that's pretty far away?
It becomes a moot point, really. And when you think the down in the Philippines, I think they're on Eastern time, I think. And it's no big deal. I mean, I've got a staff of writers all across America in every time zone. We do it all day, every day. And you think about the ability to leverage your company to serve both internally and externally, right? Because you've got people, Mark, who can help design things. You've got people who can do, bookkeeping things, executive assistant type things. I mean, anything really that you need as a business owner to harness your vision, build systems, and say, you talked earlier about the emails and the things that a business owner does, and maybe a virtual assistant can't do it 100%, but if you train them right, they can do it 80-90%. Okay, I'm just now coming in and finishing out and dude, I'll do that all day long. The value that you're going to gain by having a team member, and I think that's the other thing I really want to talk about, is bringing an offshore employee, a teammate on as a teammate, not as a vendor, not as a cog in my wheel, but they want to serve you and win big.
Right. Right. It's no different than any relationship. And smart business owners understand that relationships are everything. And whether somebody is your assistant, your janitor, your cleaning lady, you must treat them with respect. And that's what breeds loyalty. Who wants
Well,
to work for a boss who treats them poorly?
right. Well, and from what we've experienced in the Philippine culture with working with a few, is they have a culture of service, of respect. They speak well, and it's like, can I just clone you and make you my child? I mean, it really is. It's a different mentality, but they're going to represent you so well. And when you bring them in as a teammate and share with them your visions, your goals, and all that, they come on board and they are there. And
Right.
they wake up every day ready to go with a great attitude. Mm.
You are spot on, Michael. The culture is 100% built on respect to parents, elder siblings, elders in general, bosses. Here in the US, for better or for worse, if we start a job and our boss is unclear with directions, an American may raise their hand and say, can you help me understand? I'm a little confused about this. The Philippines, the culture is so embedded that they just don't speak up.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's a great, great culture, and that's part of what we do as an outsourcing company. We're really essentially a staffing agency, but we bridge the cultural gap because we understand Filipino culture. We understand Filipino business culture, which is truly, if you and I were 22 years old and started in a Filipino company, we would sit at our desk until somebody came over and told us what to do.
Yeah.
And so we have to help them understand that Americans have a different level of expectations. Proactivity is good. Asking questions is good. No,
Yes.
it's actually positive, not negative if you're unclear about something. So
Yeah.
that's also how we differentiate ourselves a bit.
Well, and that's good. And talk a little bit about bridging that culture gap. So somebody comes to you, business owner comes to you, they work with you. How do you find the right person on teammate, and then what's your ongoing role with that business owner and the teammate? How does all that work? Just to give our audience a little bit of a snippet.
Sure. So it usually starts with a Zoom call where I think of myself as an unpaid consultant.
Mm,
A business owner comes to me and says, we think we need help in customer service, or we think we need help there. And I would say at least half the times that's the direction we move in. But as
mm-hmm.
I start to ask a lot of questions about their business and where are the pain points, oftentimes we uncover that, well, all these projects are stuck because my COO spends 20 hours a week doing bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And then we put a plan together that says, even though you felt that you don't have enough coverage on your phones, I think what's really important is let's get a bookkeeper in there who, by the way, is a certified bookkeeper who majored in accounting and didn't pick it up because the CEO asked them to pick it up and they're really unqualified to do it. Let's start there. Let's stabilize that function. And then let's start to move into some of the other positions. So what's a little unique about our agency is we only provide full-time staff.
Mm-hmm.
We often get inquiries for, I only need a bookkeeper for 20 hours a week or a data entry for, 25 hours a week. We only do fulls. And the reason for that is if we do a share where somebody works 20 hours for you, Michael, and 20 hours for another business, invariably one of the businesses is going to grow. And
Yep.
they're going to say, hey, I'd like this person 40 hours.
Right.
And we either make you really happy and make the other person unhappy because they have to start all over. So we've decided to only support the dedicated model. And what's great about that is you have somebody who's dedicated to you. All they're doing is working for you. So the vetting process is, let's use an example. Companies looking to hire a bookkeeper or an executive assistant. Oftentimes it's a new position. They don't have a job description. We write a draft of a job description. They fine tune it. We sign agreements, and then we go out and we start recruiting. And a lot of outsourcing companies will just, send a company, here's 15 resumes, let's set up interviews.
Mm.
We actually have a very detailed internal process where before we present anybody, they would meet with 4 individuals at our company, including my business partner, Cherry, our CEO, who's got a 30-year background in HR. So when we present somebody, this is somebody who is 85% of the time is going to get hired.
Mm-hmm.
So we feel like a company's paying us to deliver a VIP concierge service. Giving them 15 resumes is not making their job easier. It's making it more difficult.
Yeah.
So we set up an interview. They get to meet the candidate on Zoom. If they like them, we make them an offer and we plan for an onboarding.
Right.
And then during the onboarding, we'll do a lot of behind the scenes training, talk about their business. If they're new to working for US companies, we'll talk about their business culture. For example, if it was for you, I would say, Michael is this super high energy guy who's just like the nicest guy ever. And it's going to be hard to keep up with him because he moves fast. And every once in a while, you have to raise your hand and slow him down and say, hey, I'm not sure about this. Can you please explain it?
Yeah.
And we really try to help bridge the gap because I'm always the first person talking to a business owner. So then I'm translating all that. It's almost like a match.com in some way.
Right. That's very cool. One thing I really like about your model is that you have such background in business. I mean, you are a business owner outside of this business. You've got another business. You are your client, your prospect, really, at the end of the day. You understand the ups, the downs, the frustrations of being a business owner and saying, okay, and I love how you diagnosed the bottleneck with that company you explained. They wanted this, and you said, well, actually, the bottleneck's right here. Let's fix that first. And everything else is going to flow. And we may still need this other thing, but the bottlenecks here, that only comes when you've got somebody who's probably been there a couple times. You've been the bottleneck, right? And go, okay, here's what we want to do. So when you get somebody like that unpaid consultant as as cherry on top. There you go. You can use that. You can use that phrase since your wife's name is Cherry. Cherry on top. Um, but you understand business and business owners and the struggles we all face versus talking with a salesperson or a onboarding expert. No, no, no. You get Mark, and
Right.
that's the thing I think is really cool.
I mean, there's often times, in fact, I met with somebody from our strategic coach cohort who was looking for an assistant. And by the end of the call, I said, you don't really need an assistant. It sounds like if you repurpose your operations manager to do A, B, and C, and then you move some things around, you really don't need to hire somebody else. He's like, I can't believe you said that. Well,
Why
I
wouldn't
used to wait tables when I was in college, and I was the rare waiter who never recommended the most expensive entree or the most expensive bottle of wine.
Yeah,
Because if you come into my restaurant, they say, what do you recommend? I would say, what do you like?
yeah, absolutely.
What kind of foods do you like? I want you to be happy and come back and not try to sell you the most expensive item on the menu so that I get the highest tip.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're a business owner and you're thinking, you're feeling that your business is bottlenecked or you're not growing or something, and you really feel that another person would help, but you're not sure where to go, how to get them, how to hire them, how to train them, how to get. I'm going to recommend you just call Mark and have an initial Zoom call or however that works. Mark, where would they go to start that whole process and just learn more about you and your company?
So, and you're correct, Michael. I would do a consultation with anybody. And there's
Okay.
times where I take consultations. I know it's not leading anywhere. They're never going to become a client, but I'm happy to help because I have a lot of experience with business owners, and I can kind of see, it's easy to see who needs help, and some are unwilling. Some are just control freaks and they're never going to grow and they're always going to do everything. And I get that too. But if somebody is interested in exploring outsourcing, our company name is MCVO Talent. So the website is www.mcvotalent.com. You can book a call with me and we'll schedule a call and we'll talk and see if if offshoring is a good fit for you. It may not be due to the nature of your business. Sometimes you really do need local people.
Yeah.
But there are some positions I can help guide as to where there might be opportunities where somebody offshore would work best with your organization.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to grab that and put that in the show notes as well, so you can reach out, check out their website. It's got a really cool website, and just book that call with Mark because it is a conversation to understand. It's diagnostic, really, at the beginning of business owner to business owner. What's going on? What are you trying to solve? Is this the right next step? Are we the right company? Here's what it looks like from an investment standpoint, because this and the other thing we didn't even talk about is don't go into this if you're thinking I just need somebody for 2 months. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a long-term partnership, a growth, a teammate, and somebody who's going to help you grow your business, and hopefully the first of many, because as you experience this, you're going to get bit by the bug and realize, wow, what else can you do, Mark? Right? And it's just going to free you up to go, I like it. And that's how it should work, right?
It's exactly how it happened at our wedding album company. We started with 5 graphic designers to design the albums. And before you know it, we were hiring IT folks and then accounting. And yeah, it just makes sense.
It really does. So let me encourage you to reach out to Mark, mcvotalent.com. It's going to be in the show notes. And just have the conversation. See if it makes sense, because every year you're going to be struggling with something with growth if you're an entrepreneur. Mark's going to help you grow more profitably by really squeezing those costs, helping you run a leaner machine and have great output in your machine and wonderful teammates. So, Mark Zucker, thank you for being my guest today. It's been such a fun conversation. I appreciate you and your genuineness and how you came into this whole thing. And I'm grateful that you're here to share your expertise with my audience.
And I love your energy.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Reach out to Mark. Stay tuned for another great episode coming up next week on Experts Speak. Take care. God bless.